Maximum News. It is a great time to be a horror fan, Sybe. So much so, like, here's the thing, right? Silent Hill, Resident Evil, great announcements happened this past week for both the Resident Evil 4 remake and the Silent Hill franchise. I know that, some people don't care about Silent Hill, but they do care about Resident Evil and vice versa. Really big news. And because of that, I don't really know which one I want to start with. I mean, I know what I want to start with. I want to start with Silent Hill. But I think it would be fun just to try this just once. Sybe, I'm going to flip this Canadian quarter, and I'm going to... Let's do Silent Hill for heads and Resident Evil for tails, okay? And then we'll choose whichever one we decide based off of that. Ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1... It's tails, so we're starting with Resident Evil 4. So, Resident Evil 4, I mean, half of it was Resident Evil 8 in the third person and the DLC stuff, but I don't really care about that. We're here to talk about how awesome that trailer was for Resident Evil 4 Remake. Sybe, it looks like what they're trying to do moving forward is trying to create a more cohesive identity for Resident Evil, where it's not just the horror of the original 3 games or the more action-oriented flavor of 4 through 6. It's going to be both of them as established through the RE2 remake, continuing on forward, maybe into 5, 6, and gosh, eventually they'll have to get around to remaking 7, right? What are they going to do then? I love the trailer. Everything about it is really encouraging. I'm glad they made Leon's voice more mature. I was worried about how that would square in my mind, because I just, Resident Evil 4 is so perfect that if they were to change anything about the original, including something like as minute as that, I would be pissed. But it looks fantastic. Everything about it, from the animations to the combat to the addition of a greater horror element, which they seems to have nailed. Oh god, Salazar, we finally got our first look at Salazar, who looks awesome. Mr. Kennedy. And then Ada, and it's even looking like Ashley isn't going to be annoying anymore. Still got to get our first look at Krauser, but that's about it. I'm very happy about it. Sybe, I know we've talked about this, I can't remember what you said. Are you a fan of Resident Evil 4 onwards? And if you are, what is your opinion on the Resident Evil 4 remake trailer as a fan?
So Resident Evil Nemesis was one of my absolutely favorite games. Just coming out of having my own place and doing stuff. It was so fun to sit in a dark basement playing Resident Evil Nemesis, constantly running from zombies and the big guy who wants to eat you or something. And I really enjoyed that. So I of course I did play most of the other Resident Evil games back then, because it was easier to get access to. Even the stuff that was just on PlayStation. It was like $30 to rent a PlayStation for an entire long weekend and play 2 or 3 games. And usually I didn't. I would usually just play one game, and then I would finish it, because that's how you do things. So yeah, that's my experience with it, and I enjoyed it a lot.
But what about 4?
4 is where I didn't start to get into it that much.
Okay.
I know with the escort stuff and that, it's I enjoyed it, reading all the reviews and watching people play it, and there were a couple times I got a chance to watch people play it, but that's when trying to get access to rental consoles just became really difficult, at least in my area, and I don't know why.
It came out later in the GameCube's life cycle, right? Around 2004, 2005. Yeah, I remember renting an Xbox from Blockbuster when that was around back in 2002. I think
it might have been in college then too. So
yeah, I was 8 years old then. So I recently got into the Resident Evil franchise 2 years ago, and I've been going through as many of them as I can. I would have to say that 4 is probably my favorite. I didn't grow up with it, and I don't have like my first Resident Evil game defining my appreciation for it. I generally appreciate all of them. But what you do know of Resident Evil 4, do you have any sort of like attachment to it that a lot of people do, where they see like, oh, it's one of the greatest games of all time? How do you follow that up? Or are you just looking at this as somebody who's not really partaken to those emotional feelings? And whatever the case may be, what is your overall thought on the trailer?
I think Resident Evil overall is a series that I would encourage most people to play. Just in general. It's like one of those things that started out, and the remakes have been really close to true to form, and I really do appreciate that. They're not they haven't been as campy and as terrible as they could have been. Lord knows that we've seen our fair share of absolute garbage in the remake universe, and thankfully I don't think any of these really have been that bad. Like I can't think of any major issue with any of them that's come out. So I think we're lucky for the most part. Yeah, we're definitely lucky when it comes to this genre, this IP, because the chances of having a complete and total travesty of a launch is actually quite high, but not as much anymore. So
yeah, I can't. It looks like they're going to nail it. I've yet to see virtually anybody complain about anything in regards to the Resident Evil 4 trailer. And yeah, as sort of a new time fan, somebody really, really loved the Resident Evil 2 remake and even the 3 remake. And I understand a lot of the criticisms people have with Resident Evil 3's remake. I still enjoyed it nonetheless, and I can't wait to have that continue and see what they do to expand upon it with number 4. Hello, stranger. All right.
Yeah. The only thing that I remember is they did cut out a fair bit of stuff, and that kind of sucks.
What?
I hope they don't. Yeah, they cut out the bell tower fight in one of the remakes.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that I was racking my brain, and it's like, okay, so yeah. So other than that, that's about it as far as like really terrible like stuff, which isn't much, and we can be thankful for that, because gaming news these days has been depressing at oftentimes at best.
Yeah, and at worst, like. Actually, no, don't answer that, because I imagine what you would want to say would probably get us demonetized. Yeah, so very excited. Only have to wait until March. I'll probably pick up the DLC next week. I don't know. I got other stuff that I got to do before I get to that, even if I do get it. Let's move on to, obviously, the thing that I most want to talk about, even though I've talked about it twice in 2 separate videos on my channel side. For those who don't follow me on my main channel, we should probably recap people on sort of the Silent Hill coverage that we did last week. So on Wednesday, we the last show that we did on the Maximum News show, we talked about how there was going to be a Silent Hill transmission from Konami on Wednesday, October the 19th. And we said that we were going to stream it over on my channel. We did. Probably some of the most fun I've ever had in my life. We streamed to almost 1,000 people live. I never thought in my life that I would ever see something like that. But it was a blast. It was a gathering of love, people for this franchise. And best of all, that love wasn't completely disrespected. Like, a lot of people were expecting this transmission to turn out absolutely horribly. Why? Because it's Konami. And, you know, I still hold that opinion of them, but I will give them the win here. Overall, I thought that the transmission that they gave us was solid. It wasn't mind-blowing or anything. It was mainly just, to let us know what's up, what we can expect to come. I said in the video that I did following up the live stream that we did, saying that my hype meter has moved about 10% upwards from where it was. And that's mostly because they didn't mess it up. And I didn't really see anything discouraging, although except for one thing, and we'll probably talk about that in a second. But yeah, the 4 things that they announced, there was stuff that I at least found curious and attention grabbing in all of them, and in the majority of them, that curiosity is positive. We'll go through the individual announcements in just a second, just to recap our thoughts, the ones that we shared on stream and in the recap video. But before we do those specific thoughts, I just want to throw it over to Syb so that he can recap his general thoughts on the transmission.
I'm really happy with the general direction that they're going, considering the absolute worst that could have happened. They could have come out and gone, we're bringing pachinko machines live to you, which you go, they wouldn't do that. Well, there's an app that's been going around that allows you to play claw machines at a ridiculously, like, you're paying a lot of money to play claw machines, real life claw machines over your phone. And then they just mail you the stuff that comes through.
What?
Yeah,
why would you play? Why would you pay to use a claw machine on your phone? That's like paying to use, I don't know, to watch somebody ride a Peloton on your TV.
Yeah.
Why? Just go to the arcade. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I sound like an old person.
It's very worrisome. The direction that they could have gone in, but we're not going in that direction at the moment. I want to heavily emphasize, and everything looks generally good. We had a great live stream. We had 1,000 people watching. That was great, and it was really it was really good to see happy people that were excited to see content that was on its way, and that for the moment looks like you don't have to like lose sleep over, because we all know that Max loses sleep over his favorite genres.
Yes,
I do as well, but this is his, so yeah.
Right. Well, so much of my livelihood is tied to how well this franchise does. Obviously I love it, but that there's that added element onto it too, and yeah, thank God that. Because I know it, like I already said it, but it bears repeating. It could have gone badly, and we were all expecting it to go badly. But they didn't show pachinko machines. They didn't do any of the crap that we've come to expect from Konami over the last several years. They showed us 4 games, a little bit of merchandise, which actually, frankly, aside from the skateboard stuff, I love those dioramas, man. I want the one with the dog. That stuff looks so cool. I want it for Christmas. Baby, if you're listening to this right now, hint, hint. But yeah,
I want to point this out. It's like with all the microtransactions, all this stuff that's been going out. It's like, you could set up a thing where instead of like microtransactions, people could get like dioramas and like miniatures and like the fancy figurines and stuff like that of the things in game, and that they could just get a physical product, and you could overcharge on that, and I bet you people would still be happy with it. So as much as some people were like, oh, why are they going this way? It's like, no, at least you're getting something physical that'll last, that hopefully is like high quality.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, I honestly, I'm this close. I will tell you this: if the games are good, I will buy one of those dioramas, because they look really, really good. All right, so let's just go through the 4 games that were announced and just give our quick thoughts on them, because we already went into detail on the stream. Silent Hill 2 Remake, everybody just automatically thinks this game is going to suck because of the developer behind it, Bloober Team. And I understand why, because I, like a lot of people that are criticizing it, agree that a lot of their games aren't very good. Having said that, they did do Observer, which I thought was fantastic, one of the most underrated games of the last 10 years. Plus, I think that if Bloober messes up the Silent Hill 2 remake, that there will be people that work at that company that won't ever be able to sleep again, because so much of their identity is bound up with making games that are basically spiritual successors to the Silent Hill games, particularly the PT demo. I think that because of that fact, the people at that company are going to give the remake their all. And based on the trailer they showed us, it really seems like they're going to give it the really best shot. I'm hoping that what we get here is the Observer bloober and not the medium bloober. God, please don't let it be the medium bloober. That would break my heart into a million pieces. Yeah, and one thing I'll just say this, because I've seen a lot of people comment on this over Twitter, and I really haven't said anything about it. I think that whole iconic shot of James looking into the mirror and looking really worried, people are up in arms and saying, oh my god, Bloober doesn't understand what they're doing, based purely on that shot. Because what they're saying is that in the original Silent Hill 2, when he's looking into the mirror, he's not looking worried, his face is deadpan, and the whole point is that, well, that's supposed to convey subtlety, and, it's not in-your-face horror, and, James wouldn't do that. Well, I'm telling you this right now, if they were to do a direct transition of that scene into modern graphics, it would look stupid. It would. Yeah, it would look absolutely stupid. I have absolutely no problem with them doing that for that particular scene. Now, if it happens that James is like that for the entire game, then yes, that argument would be valid. But to extrapolate the fact that Bloober didn't do it for that particular scene and say, oh, well, the entire game is effed, that's ludicrous. And Syb, I saw thousands of people making this argument over the weekend. It was just mind-blowing to me. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I know you want to say something.
I had a professor who would go on for like 5 to 10 minutes at a time whenever there was a technical malfunction, saying that the technical malfunction was helping to illustrate his point. It wasn't. It was just a technical malfunction. People who look at this and go, "Oh my goodness! Oh, the deadpanness is it's transmitting so much additional in-depth thought," and it's like, or it's not. It's a thing where it's like they didn't have a lot of that technology, and Ash covered this before. It's like, why did they replace Mario's voice? Because Mario's voice in a full-length movie would become extremely grating on you after about 15 minutes. Imagining him go, "It's a me, a Mario!" It's just super like over the top, like all the time. It works in a game because you hear that once in a while. It does not work in a movie where you're hearing him talk nonstop and having long conversations with it.
Mm-hmm.
It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't fly. But yeah, just a thought.
It's adaptation. And plus, guys, remember, it's not just Bloober Team. Masahiro Ito and Akira Yamaoka, the guys behind the original game, they're heavily involved from a creative standpoint. They're going to do everything that they can to make sure that their masterpiece isn't completely messed up, okay? And, I'll just repeat this for the nth time. Just because it's a Western studio doesn't mean that it's going to turn out badly. There are Western games that are able to get the psychological and tone right, okay? It'll be, from what I've seen so far, things are going to be fine. Now, when we see gameplay, that could change, but right now, I think we don't have any reason to panic. Did you have anything else you want to say on the remake, Syb, or do you want to move on to Townfall?
No, that's it. I think it's just a generally like let's hope, let's be. We don't have to be super negative. We can just be positive, and that's, like I said, in the gaming industry that's today, that's a good thing.
Yeah, let's be in Bloober's corner. Let's cheer him on, and then when the game comes out, if it's messed up, then criticize them. Obviously, just cool it. Let's just be happy that Silent Hill's back for now. All right, moving on to Townfall. Not a whole lot to really go off of. We only know the only thing that we can really extrapolate from the Silent Hill Townfall announcement is the developers behind it. And unlike Bloober, we got some pretty good pedigree behind this game from both No Code and Annapurna. Annapurna, they did Stray and The Outer Wilds, amongst a whole bunch of other well-received games. And No Code, I'd never heard of Stories Untold, but I have heard of Observation. And both of them were pretty damn well received by critics and fans alike. For that reason, I'm very, very curious to see whatever the hell they plan to do with this game. But we really don't know. All we saw in the trailer is what was this, like a handheld TV, a close up on a handheld TV, and waves crashing into shore, and that's it. So that means what? We'll get this game in 2027.
Well,
Yeah,
I hope not.
I hope not too. But yeah. Anything you want to add to that besides what I just said? Have you played any of those games? Like, did you play Stray or Outer Wilds or any of those?
Like Stray?
Yeah.
Or yeah, Stray. Yes, yeah. We did a big thing on Stray. It was really good.
Yeah, everybody loved that game.
Yeah, everybody loved it. It was such nice simplicity, and we've spent an enormous amount of money on the game because Mooney went and ordered both the backpack and I believe it's a carrier case that are from the game or like designed from the game. And so we're going to have this like really spacey LED thing to put the cats in and then or the dogs, because we have really small, tiny dogs. And that's really cool. I think that's awesome. I'm excited for that. And again, this is something where it's like, you give us a wonderful experience and then you give us a really nice, cool thing, right? Like a cool thing to like throw our money behind. And that helps. And of course it helps. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, me too. And just to repeat one thing that I said in my follow-up video, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but based on the choice of No Code and another developer that we're going to be talking about in a moment, it seems that Konami is not choosing these developers on a whim. I feel that they have enough money where and plus they also talked about this in the stream. They said they get hundreds of pitches from a bunch of different developers every year. And I'm sure that some of those developers included developers of a higher pedigree than developers like No Code, which so far has only worked on 2 games. I think they went with No Code because they had the most interesting and unique take. And I think that argument is bolstered by the following 2 projects that we're going to talk about. Let's go on to Silent Hill Ascension. Now, this, admittedly, is the one that I'm most worried about because it's the most experimental. We don't know how it's going to turn out. But because it's experimental, I think I'm choosing to remain at least very cautiously optimistic, just because it seems to be in line with my general theory of how Konami's approaching the Silent Hill license, is that they're trying to go with stuff that's innovative and will help advance the formula of the Silent Hill games forward. With Silent Hill Ascension, it seems like what they're trying to do is something like Twitch plays Pokemon. They have people witness like a live stream of something, and then they influence the direction of the game through chat or through text message, SMS. That's like what it seems to be the case as to what they're doing. That's not what I think of in regards to Silent Hill. And because of just like how perfect all the variables had to be to make this work, I am default pessimistic, but I'm trying not to dwell on that pessimism because I just like the fact that they're making bold choices here. It could be messed up very easily, but I don't know. We'll see. Syb, I don't recall what your initial impression was of Ascension. Do you share my pessimism, or are you a little bit more optimistic?
Hard
to say, right? It's so early.
It's hard to say because this is how this tech works. You have no idea whether or not this is going to be a phenomenal success that ushers in the new technology and new ways of doing games like Pokemon Go, or whether it's going to be an absolute dud.
Yeah.
And I've learned that really there's no way to tell.
Mm-hmm.
There are games that there are games and things that I thought nobody in their right mind would believe this hype. And then people do. And the game's not good. It's just marketed like fairly well.
Yeah.
And people like, and it's marketed on a lie. Like a really bad, obvious lie. And people eat it up going, "Oh wow, this is so cool." They look at certain game journalists and companies and corporations who have lied to them to their face before. And not even that long ago, like semi-recently, like within the same year. And they go, "Oh, well, they must be telling the truth now." It's like, and you know that how? Like, how do you, like, what possibly could give you the reason to believe them now? Oh, well, just cuz. It's like, okay. Right. So, so I have no idea because I can't judge people's general reaction. I'm not calling most people stupid. I'm just pointing out how, the things from all the scenarios, all the games that have come out over the last like few years, it's like there's been some hits and some sleeper hits that you go, how are they getting the success when they stood up in front of you and lied? Like the fact that people can rally behind EA is just weird to me. Like who looks at EA and goes, "You know what? Those are some real cool people that over there doing great things for video gaming. Yeah, no. Yeah, I really respect what they're doing right now." It's like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. I respect.
So weird.
Yeah, I respect what Joseph Fares is doing with his games, but that's about it. And then maybe every so often when Respawn puts out a single player game like Jedi Fallen Order, but that's it. Yeah, like with Townfall, it's too early to tell. I will say though that the monster design for that main monster in the trailer, he looked awesome. Like he looked peak Silent Hill, and I can't wait to see what happens when people face off against him. And then finally, the final game they announced, Syb, was easily the one that people seem to be the most excited for and the most hopeful. And it all has to do with a guy that I had never heard of until last Wednesday, Ryukishi07. Now, who's that? Well, at the very end of the trailer, it says that the guy who wrote the story for the new Silent Hill game, the one that they announced at the very end, Silent Hill F, stupid title, he's the one writing this, and apparently he's responsible for a lot of really, really cool horror stories that I'd never heard of. I think one of them's called When Doves Cry. No, that's the Prince song. What's the name of it? I can't remember. I'm sorry. But anyways, people in our chat and all over the internet were losing their mind when they found out that this guy was attached to it, because apparently he's going to do something hella interesting with the Silent Hill license with his flavor and do something really, really unique, which goes back to what I was saying about No Code. It seems like they picked a guy like Ryukishi and No Code because they have really, really interesting takes on the formula. They know how to take it forward while also maintaining some of its original identity. And because that seems to be what Konami's strategy is moving forward, that's why I choose to be overall optimistic, even if I don't like one or two of the things they might be doing. So, have you ever heard of Ryukishi? And if you haven't, anyways, what is your thought on the Silent Hill F trailer?
Good again. Overall, like good. I don't see where, like, with them bringing him in, I think this is going to work, and I think this is going to work well, because you need people who are really good at what they're doing, who are really pushing like advanced, non-standard, normal things, and I think that's a great idea overall. So I'm really excited for this. I really think that getting this guy in here, because I looked it up. Everybody raves about it. I haven't read it, but a lot of people are raving about it, and it's normal people. It's not like, a bunch of game journalists going, "Oh wow, he did this wonderful art thing in France a few years ago, and it was this tiny little short film that I would have said probably looked illegal because of all the things they were doing in it that really seemed illegal, but we voted for him being the best director of this era." It's like Hollywood does that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
These regular people, they don't fall for that typically.
Yeah.
So so hearing the nonstop praise on this has me like genuinely hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when you know that Konami did something right, when people genuinely can't find a reason to criticize the trailer or the idea. Mm-hmm. Everybody everywhere loves what they're doing with Silent Hill F, except for the title, I said.
Yeah, I was expecting a complete and total, bad thing. Let's just put it that way. Yes, I was expecting a failure on so many levels, but they
That's
didn't.
What the F would have standed for if they did mess it up. Silent Hill failure. That or, that press F to pay respects meme.
Right. So this is interesting. Again, it's like let's see what they got. I'm not saying please don't pre-order. Please don't.
No. Oh God, no. Yeah.
Please don't pre-order. But keep your eye on this one because it's everything that they've done looks great and genuinely gives me hope for the future of multiple franchise, of their franchise with this, and then maybe even other franchises that they own that we've been looking at and going, can you please do something with this properly? So hopefully this works. Hopefully this hits out, just gets knocked out of the park. And then hopefully people can move on with, yeah.
Yeah. Just to that point you just made, some people were saying, why didn't you appear more emotional during the stream when certain things were happening, Max? And I said, well, Silent Hill means a lot to me, but I can tell you one thing. If the rumors were true that Blue Point was doing a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, and that trailer dropped and I'm seeing all these things from my childhood pop up, then you would get me bawling like a mother. Okay. Just to address those people real quick. So, very excited for both of these franchises. It's a great time to be a survival horror fan. 2023 is going to be awesome. We got Dead Space to look forward to. We got the Callisto Protocol to look forward to. We got Alan Wake to look forward to. 2023 is going to be a banger. All right, let's move on to... I was going to say something horrifying. It's not horrifying. I was just looking for a transition. Bayonetta. This was the biggest story last week, aside from the announcement that Silent Hill was coming back. We talked. This is something that I'm still not really able to wrap my head around. Maybe, Saab, you can help me out. To repeat what we said last week, the original voice actress for Bayonetta, who played Bayonetta in Bayonetta 1 and 2, Helena Taylor, she took to Twitter and made some accusations against the developers behind Bayonetta, Platinum Games, saying that she was offered a measly amount to reprise her role as the titular character. Her claim was that she was being offered to do $4,000 for what would amount to 5 days of work in the voice booth, at least. She refused them, and she felt she was sort of pushed into a corner. She didn't really have any money. She was depressed. She was almost she was on the verge of homelessness. And so she figured, you know what? If I break my NDA, what are they going to do? Take the clothes off my back? I'm paraphrasing her words. And so people were inclined to believe her given the circumstances. I certainly was. And especially with the multitude of people who are other popular, even more popular, I would argue, voice actors and actresses were coming out and echoing the stuff that she was saying, that they were offered the same, if not lower rates for work that they did on other popular franchises. I think one of the people that I quoted was a guy named Brian Decker, or Deckard, what's his name from Blade Runner? He played Connor in Detroit Become Human, and he's talked about the same thing. Well... Mm-hmm. The saga, just when you thought part 1, couldn't be surpassed by part 2. Part 2 dropped this past week. According to Saib's favorite journalist, Jason Schreier, who works for Bloomberg. And the following is also corroborated by another outlet called VGC, that's Video Games Chronicle. Apparently, Helena Taylor might not have been telling the truth. So they reached out.
I want to heavily emphasize
The May.
here that this is Jason Schreier, a man who works for mega corporations, who works for Bloomberg News, one of the most dishonest machines. The guy who owns a company used his press company to help him run for presidency, and he failed completely. just to emphasize that.
Provide that.
Then he said that he was going to do whatever he could to I don't want to get into lawsuit territory. He's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's the type of people that I would, typically be protesting as a general thing, just because he's a multi-billionaire who doesn't actually do anything helpful with his billions. He is a slimy, scummy man. This is the company that's saying, "Oh, yes, we have the real info on this."
Right. No. We could say that about Bloomberg, but a lot of the stuff that they're saying is also corroborated by VGC. Right?
Which again, I don't really trust. Because
okay.
we haven't seen any actual hard data. Like, we haven't seen email receipts.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the actual offer numbers. Platinum, you could disregard most of what they're saying because it's not Platinum. It's Palladium. No, Platinum.
Platinum, yeah.
Yeah, Platinum Games. Sorry. So Platinum Games, whatever they say is, of course, is going to be in their own defense. And they didn't drop, actual, copies of emails. They didn't do that. They just said, actually, we offered this. And we're just supposed to believe you. This is again, remember, this is the company that made Babylon's Fall the worst microtransaction BS game I have seen come to the PC ever. And it's so poorly made and was so poorly optimized that it had approximately less than 100 people a week after it launched playing the game. This is the company who they're saying, "Oh, just trust us, guys. We did a fair job on this one. She just was being a party pooper. Well, we really actually we went out of the way. We offered her a really good deal, which wasn't a good deal even in what they said that they were giving her. They were giving her 3 to 5 sessions at 3 to 4K per session.
Yeah.
Okay, so at a minimum, you're going to pay her less than 10 grand.
No. That'd be 20 grand, roughly.
No.
15 to 20.
$3,000 to $4,000
per session
for 3 to 5 sessions. So at a minimum, she's making 9K.
Oh, okay. Forgive me. I thought I read that it was at least 5.
She's making maybe 20K, but they said capped at 15.
Gotcha.
Right. So
okay.
So again, that still doesn't really hold water for what other major voice actors get for major roles in major games. Again, Fallout 4, both of those actors, both of the main voice actors, recorded an enormous amount of lines, spent months and months and months doing that. And they got paid enough to pay for, from what I've heard, more than a year of their expenses. So that's not $15,000. That's not $20,000. That's probably not even $50,000. That's north of $50,000. You get the Red Dead Redemption guy. He recorded for 2.5 years, I think he said.
Oh, jeez.
You think he did that for 15 to 20 grand? No. Obviously, there's way more work. But again, the we're looking at the people who are claiming to have the truth, and the people claiming to have the truth, I would never trust them to as far as I could possibly throw them, and I can't throw them more than a few feet. So this is like, again, this is a he said, she said scenario where the company, who's run by a guy who likes to call people insects, right. We're supposed to believe him that he's altruistic and very honest.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that like they have like between the two of them. Obviously, I'm leaning towards Helena, but just because of the nature of the situation, we obviously can't put our stick down on one side or the other. And this, despite, how much both you and I detest the people involved in this investigative report, there is a smidge of legitimacy to it that makes us like stand back and like, okay, let's just wait for all the information to come out. And that seems to be the opinion of a lot of people across the internet. Although I will say, in Helena Taylor's defense, I'll add what she said. She says that this is an outright lie. She says what else is also a lie is that, Platinum suggested that she wanted 6 figures and wanted residuals off of that, which is a far cry from what she said was offered to her. So I don't know. It's just an update in regards to the whole situation. Yeah, it's very sad. Obviously, this stuff is going to play out in court. We'll have to see the physical documents between the two of them.
Here's something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to play this out in court at all.
You think she's going to get the settlement?
Oh, no. They're just going to ignore her because they know that she's right. If they take her to court, she's going to win. Because they're going to say, you said this. Well, turns out this is an actual factual statement because, like I said, I really doubt that they're going to take her to court. I would be very surprised if they take her to court because, frankly, I think they're lying, and because that's what, if you talk to any, if you rewind back to like when all the voice actors were talking about this, they were all saying, yeah, this is pretty like poor pay. This is very standard. That we get next to nothing for the immense amount of work that we do, and it's very discouraging. And I have worked in the voice industry. We have some community members who are trying to get into the voice industry, and it's not easy at all. It's very difficult. It's difficult because it pays peanuts, and you're the voice of these characters, which is huge. And you get nothing for being a main voice actor for some companies. Other companies, like I said, there's other companies that pay very handsomely for their work because they know that voice is going to be one of the most important things in their game. Their team of voice actors is one of the best things that they have to increase and maintain a good connection with their player throughout their playtime on their game. And a good voice will make it or break it. And yeah, that's the way it is. And as far as like just the whole like, lawsuit thing and that stuff back and forth, again, these are journalists who, what happened to Jason Schreier championing unions? And then all of a sudden he does a 180 on this particular scenario. Like that's, again, it screams to me that he's lying, that he knows he's lying, and that, that's just the way that he operates because that's what Jason Schreier has been doing for years. And not to be like overly like insulting at him, the guy has never had conviction. Let's just say, the amount of times that he says, "Oh, I stand for this, I stand for that," and then behind the scenes, what everybody says?
It's opposite.
It's the exact opposite. He's a liar. He's a shill. He's just in it for money. He doesn't give a damn about what people are doing and the cost and effect scenarios of these developer companies. He's just saying it because it's a popular thing to say.
Yeah.
And so I frankly do not believe him, and I'm floored again. In this particular instance, why anybody would look at Platinum and say, "Oh yeah, no, they're fair." I mean, that game that they just made was a complete and total bomb. They didn't even keep it going for more than 9 months. It's an absolute travesty. It's a game that you can spend almost infinite money in. Like, there's games like, Immortal, where you can reasonably normally spend $100,000 getting your character absolutely kitted out. And then there's Babylon's Fall, where you could theoretically just spend infinitely. All like infinite's a big number, but you could theoretically spend $500,000 and you wouldn't even see everything. You wouldn't even see everything. In Tower of Fantasy, you can spend $1,000 and you'd see pretty much everything, and there would be no point to continuing to purchase after that fact, right? Like 1,000, you'd be like, "What are you doing? You're just burning money at this point. Like it's stupid." Other mobile games, other microtransaction games, it's like, yeah, there's a cap on it, like a cap in the sense of like you can only unlock so much, and then you're just unlocking random stuff for no point, no reason. So yeah, I'm genuinely like confused as to why everybody's jumping to Platinum's defense. Yeah. And that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. Just whenever, I suppose, just people don't really tend to focus necessarily on who has the moral high ground. It's more so just about just trying to up the drama just for the lulz. I get that impression from a lot of people. Let's move on to something a little bit happier. One of the greatest games of the last 10 years, if not of all time, Persona 5, came out on PC this past week. Woohoo! Yeah, I haven't. I still need to finish it on PS4. Low key, I'm nearly at the end. I just haven't finished it because I don't want it to end. And I've never had that with any other game where I would purposely not play a game because I just don't like the idea of never having a new adventure with all these characters, Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just based on the 90% of it that I've played, I can firmly say, yes, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played. And it's wonderful that people on the PC, people who have never owned a Sony console, can finally enjoy it. But what's the deal with it? There was like confusion about there being a new protagonist.
So no, there was just a general. I want to just clear up that they're launching Persona 5, but they're also launching Persona 3 again. And in Persona 3, they've re-added the female protagonist, because there was a big hubbub about Persona 5 a while ago. And I gotta say, again, calling out, I will call out the company and say that their excuse for not adding a female protagonist was pretty terrible back when they initially launched this game. The initial statement was like, it's just really hard work, and it doesn't really add anything to the game. It's like, I don't know how they didn't get, what's the term, canceled for that. Like, oh yeah, we thought about adding females, but then we realized, that they don't really add anything to the experience. It's like, how are you not canceled?
Yeah,
like,
it's because the games are so good, weird. People are willing to overlook it. But yeah, it's a stupid statement. But I think I think there's an argument to be made that if you were to add a female, which they should, I would champion them to do that for Persona 6 whenever it eventually comes out. But to add one would multiply their workload by double, right? Because not only do they have I've gone over this like thoroughly in the past on past shows before. Adding a female protagonist, or say we're talking about a D&D game, right? Or some kind of fantasy game. Adding, how hard is it to add an elf? It's not, a lot of people are like, it's 100% more work of adding the male of the main other character. It's not. It's about 20% more. Okay.
Because you're, because of the work, so much of the work is just the same, right? So like, instead of, porting in the models, right? It's like you spend X amount of time doing one model. To add a second model to that, it doesn't take exactly 2 hours more if the original edit took 2 hours. It takes less time than that either that or you have just very incompetent workers generally.
Right.
Like
Sorry. Just generally speaking, I obviously agree with you. I'm just saying that I think in regards to the Persona games, where there's such an emphasis on the social element that you share between all these characters, when you have to change some of the dialogue between like the male NPCs towards a female NPC in order to reflect that change of the no? Okay.
No. So this is something I actually like. I legitimately actually did this back in the day. So when you're changing voice dialogue lines, this is something that as long as you're writing it correctly, you don't have to change a vast majority of those particular voice lines that you're thinking of. Because if you're saying if you got a teacher NPC, going, "Hey, student over there," and he says his name. It's like, yeah, that can change it. But that's what in Mass Effect is a really great example of this. Instead of saying, "Hey, male name and female name," they would just say last name. And if it was a character that you just swapped in, it was just a straight up gender swap. So same family, just they had a daughter instead of a son. That's literally just like, instead of saying their name, it's just saying, Shepherd instead of, Jane Shepherd or Jack Shepherd or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You just say Shepherd. And considering that in Japan, you typically refer to people as their last names, that's totally normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm not. I don't want to drag this up to say that they're absolutely incompetent. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that just generally speaking, it's not accurate to say that they didn't that it was too hard for them to do. It's kind of a little bit of a misnomer in that sense.
Yeah. Obviously the statement they gave was kind of stupid, but was that it? That was just the misconception that it.
Yeah. No. And I mean, that complaint aside, and I really do want to emphasize, I didn't mean to complain overly on this particular subject. That complaint aside, the game is absolutely amazing and is being received extraordinarily well. And I don't want what comes down to a poor way of. It was just a poor way of them like explaining why they chose not to. It wasn't it's not like a malicious thing like Anthem or any of the other games that we can bring up that are really terrible.
Yeah.
It just boils down to wanting to like have something that's pretty much normalized in most RPGs be available, and again it's like totally understandable, and they did an amazing job with it. Like it really is. Persona really is one of the best games in the genre right now, and highly recommend you check it out because it is actually it is really, really good. But you're definitely going to be romancing girls.
Yeah, exactly.
Which again, I don't mind. I normally romance girls, but it's just the one thing that I really wish that they had added just for the sake of giving some stuff, because it's just nicer for more people to get involved into the thing, because there's a lot of people who don't play if you don't have that choice, and I always think more choice equals better.
Yes. Well, now that it's on PC,
yeah,
people might
check it out. It's seriously amazing. It is very, very good.
Yeah.
It is one of the best RPG games you'll have. Be warned, the just to cover the game lightly is about 100 hours. To go full bore into the game, you're looking at 200 to 300. So,
but that's great value for your dollar, man.
It's really good value for your dollar.
All right, so we've gone over 15 minutes, and if we went into the Gotham Knights stuff, that would take too long. So I'm just going to cap it off there. Yeah, it's just bad. We know.
Bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Just
mostly negative reviews. It's pretty rough right now.
Yeah, don't spend your money on it. Just wait until next month. If you play God of War 2018 already, just wait for Ragnarok. Wait for Callisto Protocol. Those are great games that we can play for the rest of the year. All right, guys, that does it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you so very much for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button. That helps us out a lot. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts on any of the stuff that Cyber I talked about this episode. Cyber, do you want to tell people about the main channel before we sign off for the night?
Check out the Triple S League on YouTube and type into Triple S And you'll see a couple of our channels. Actually, we got a music channel, we got AI plays, and a couple other things. So check it out.
And you guys could just find me on all the regular forms of social media, just at Max Derrat. All right, talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.